Minecraft is old. It's been around for almost 14 years, and a lot has changed, but also many features have been in the game for almost that entire time, so learn 20 of the oldest features still in Minecraft today. What you're looking at right now is Minecraft Classic, one of the oldest versions of the game, and it's actually entirely free. If you ever want to try out Minecraft Classic, go to classic.minecraft.net, and with no need to log in, you can play this incredibly old legacy version of the game. Now this version is a great way of looking at what features in the game have been around for a long time, and what features are somewhat new. The first one of these oldest features that are still in the game today is wool. This is the incredibly strange appearance of wool inside of Minecraft Classic. You can see here that the colors are completely different to what they used to be. We do still have red, orange, yellow, but then when we get to green, we sort of have like a lime green, then a very fluorescent green, then like a turquoise prismarine color, then we have a very light blue, then we have like a super dim blue, and then instead of a dark blue, we just go on to lavender, purple, magenta, and then we go dark gray, light gray, and sort of a grayish white. There's no brown, there's no black, there's no dark blue, there's no dark green. There's also some colors we don't even have anymore. As you can see in 1.20, the wool is entirely different. We have here a bunch of colors still, but the colors themselves are much more saturated and have a lot more to them. It's funny because Minecraft Classic is so bright, everything sort of looks dim in this version. If we take a look at the incredibly large inventory screen here, where literally half the blocks we can pick are wool, and the other half are various blocks that might occur around the overworld, one stands out, and that is this one, the sponge block. So you might be wondering why in the world was sponge in the game this far back, when of course sponge itself was made obtainable multiple years after this version. If we place down this sponge inside the water, you can see it does have function to it, but there is no specific place you can find it. Still, it is pretty crazy that we had items like this that actually had some function to them this long ago inside the game. Obviously sponge works a lot differently here, so we definitely do have a nicer texture of sponge now, and in terms of how much water it drains out, the number is also much larger, and obviously sponge does not permanently keep water out of that area, although I do think it would actually be nice if it did that. That definitely makes the old sponge in some senses more useful. Another yellow block that is in Minecraft Classic that is still in Minecraft today is the gold block, but it looks a lot different in this version than it does today. As you can see here, this gold block has a very old texture to it, something that was phased out pretty early on. This is something that was used only in the very earliest versions of the game, and was replaced far before Minecraft 1.0. And although I think the texture is a bit primitive and it does remind me of old arcade game textures, it is still really nice and has that sort of tiled look to it. Well, inside of Minecraft today, this block definitely has a lot less vibrancy than it did. Of course, the old texture of this didn't really look like this anyway, but we now have two gold blocks inside of Minecraft. We have the standard gold block and the raw gold block. Both of these blocks and textures are really nice. But let's not just talk about the actual blocks, what about the ores that they come from? Well, you might notice in our inventory here, there is no way of getting the ore blocks themselves. So what do I mean by finding the ores? Although the ore blocks cannot be found in our build menu, the ore blocks can be found inside of the world. You can even notice on this wall over here we do have some iron ore. And crazy enough, a lot of these textures, including this iron ore texture, are identical to the textures that were used all the way up to Minecraft 1.14. There are other types of ores that can be found as well. For instance, in this river, right below it you can see we do have this coal ore right here. That is the gold ore inside of Minecraft Classic. Well, the ore textures were changed just in 1.17, and so the actual shapes of these ores were the same as the diamond ore texture, as that's the only one that maintained that sort of familiar ore shape. You can see the new gold ore has this much different shape to it with these very sharp shaped ore pieces, and of course with iron ore we have these more smooth and sort of diagonal sections, and with the coal ore we have very round blobs to show to us sort of the round coal shapes there. A fairly random item that was in the game at this time is the brown as well as the red mushrooms. These items have changed quite a bit between both versions. You could even place them right on top of each other. However, something that is interesting is there was somewhat of a check to see if the placement was valid or not, because if we place a bunch of mushrooms on top of each other, you'll notice those mushrooms on top will eventually actually disappear, whereas the mushrooms that are down below will stay on the ground. Well, for starters, of course, in modern Minecraft, we do also have the giant red and brown mushrooms, but if we're looking only at the original small-sized ones, you can see technology, they are much larger in this version, also with a significantly different texture, with both the red and brown mushrooms looking quite different. They've both changed quite a bit, with much more emphasis on the stem, these ones actually having kind of brighter colors in a way. Well, there was two types of mushrooms in this version, there was also two types of flowers. We have the dandelion as well as the rose. Now the dandelion is still in the game and it looks pretty similar, but the rose actually isn't in the game anymore. This is something that did change, although technically was replaced just with a different texture called the poppy and a different name. That item still kind of exists and it gives us red dye. Still, this rose item is something that is not really there anymore, but we can see that both these flowers do function pretty similarly to how they do now. It's funny because this whole world is much brighter than modern Minecraft, but the flowers and mushrooms are much dimmer, whereas if we go back to modern Minecraft, taking a look at the dandelion and at the rose there, all the land and the general blocks around here are going to be darker, but the flowers are quite a bit lighter. Now there are technically two types of roses in Minecraft now, but neither of them are that classic rose, the mighty oak tree. This tree is still inside of Minecraft, and at this stage there were only two wood type items in the game. There were oak logs and there were oak planks. Now both of these items had almost the exact same textures as they did all the way up to 1.14, the texture update, which came out in 2019. So these textures are actually pretty similar to what most players have used throughout the history of the game. However, what is different is the fact that these were the only wood types. There was no birch wood, there really wasn't oak wood in a sense, because although these are technically oak wood blocks, it was really the only type of wood block. Still on the first page of the creative inventory, we have the oak log and the oak planks, and these items in some ways have not changed a lot. These items still have pretty similar texture. There's not really the pronounced nails that there used to be in the texture, but of course a big difference is instead of only placing the logs like this, we can now place those logs sideways. But let's take a look at a somewhat separate aspect of the wood, and that is the actual biome that it's in. Now there aren't really biomes inside of this version, but we can see certain bits of generation that are similar to other bits of generation. So for example right here we have the oak forest. Now the oak forest consists of literally just oak trees on top of the standard grass. There really isn't much unique about this biome at all, but we can still make some nice little bridges over to it. Although one thing that is interesting is this sort of being like a default biome or a biome that you see everywhere. That functionality really has stayed throughout most versions. What we do get inside of modern Minecraft is the forest biome. Now the forest biome is mostly oak trees, and the oak trees have almost the exact same leaf shape, if not the same, depending on what type it is, but there is also the occasional rare birch tree that you find throughout here. Now at this stage in Minecraft's development, we only have one transparent block, and that is glass. But glass functioned in almost the exact same way as it does now. Now of course there was no survival mode kind of idea that had been added, so the entire idea of having to silk touch glass wasn't even there, but from the actual concept of glass and the way it was rendered, it is pretty similar. As an example, you can see only one side of it is rendered at a time versus let's say the leaves or every side is. This is still the same in modern Minecraft. So for example, if we place down too thick glass right here, we're not going to get tons of intersecting glass textures that are almost impossible to look through. The funny thing about glass in Minecraft is that its ugly texture is probably the entire reason why there is a texture update, but we now have a much better glass texture, but still one that has some hate attached to it. In a very strange sense, there was kind of another type of transparent block, that being water. Now of course water is a lot different than glass in the way it works, but water mechanics were in the game to a certain extent, but there's also some other very strange differences. So for example, water is completely infinite in the way it works, and if you notice that right here, we'll break this block, this entire area will flood into pure water like this, surrounding the entire thing. That means that if we took a piece of water, we somehow got it in the very top corner of this world, the entire world would completely fill up with water. Minecraft's water today does spread, but it also has something known as water sources, which is a system to determine whether or not things should turn into water, or if they should turn into flowing water. Now obviously, if we dig a tunnel off of the side of this, it is not going to make everything over here turn into water, rather water is going to go in a flowing state from here over to this, and eventually it'll run out. Now speaking of water, we do have a block that generates right next to the water in this version, and also in the modern version versions as well. That is gravel. Gravel's texture has changed a lot across different versions, but still, let's take a look at what we have right here. You can actually see the gravel really well through the glass, and we can see all of it will generate at the bottom of the oceans. But something that is interesting is if you listen, the sound of gravel hasn't changed almost at all. Let's take a look at this in Minecraft 1.20, and you can notice here if we break this, that is the same sound. So the sound of gravel has not changed at all across versions, which is pretty crazy. Although it has been maybe compressed a little bit with some softening and some changes in leveling, that is the same sound effect. It also does still generate at the bottom of watery areas, although of course it now has uses to it like making concrete. Saplings were in the game at this time, and just like almost everything else, they had a much different texture than they do now. They also had the rule of if you place them invalidly, they would eventually disappear. However, in this version, I do not believe saplings have any use, as I planted these down and they haven't really grown. But still, if we look around, we can see that there's a large number of these saplings. In terms of their appearance, they are quite a bit smaller in this version than they are now, which is an interesting fact about that. Now, of course, the saplings were eventually given functionality, but at this point, they were just a decorative item. In modern Minecraft, that texture has changed a ton, but is somehow a bit lighter than it was in that version, also having not so contrasting of colors as the grass does here. But of course, the sapling actually does work in Minecraft 1.20, giving us standard and large oak trees, which definitely is very useful. One of the most iconic blocks, and one of the blocks that reminds me the most of old Minecraft, is the cobblestone block. Now, cobblestone has gone through a ton of different changes since then, and you can see the texture here barely resembles the modern cobblestone texture, but it is still a very interesting block that of course eventually would have been made obtainable by mining stone. Now at this point nothing was really obtainable because there was no survival mode, but you can see here that the idea of having cobblestone in the game is very old. Being in the game far before even this version, cobblestone really is a legacy concept. This is cobblestone in Minecraft 1.20. It's funny how like every single texture in the game, cobblestone has become much softer and much less harsh in terms of its palette, with everything sort of being saturated and desaturated, so that all the textures in the game don't have any real sharp edges to them, really making it resemble more real life. Dirt and grass, the bread and butter of Minecraft's world generation, still found today in almost every single biome, but how have these changed across versions? Well, believe it or not, there actually was some functionality at this point in terms of grass spreading. If we look at this dirt for long enough, you will see grass eventually spread onto it, which is kind of interesting. Also, if a solid non-transparent block was over the space that grass would be in, you can see a shadow is cast, and eventually that grass will die, turning into dirt. This is no longer how it works, as grass can still survive, and of course back in modern Minecraft, we still have grass, we still have dirt, and we still of course have dirt turning into grass. But the thing is, unlike that version, if we have blocks over grass, that will not turn it into dirt. However, dirt that's next to grass will very slowly turn into grass. If we do the game rule of random tick speed and turn that up, you can see that turn back into grass pretty quickly. Now, one interesting feature of world generation that was actually in this version, and is a lot older than you'd think, is caves. These would basically just generate as intersecting circles, as you can see here. We sort of have like a big circle here that leads into some other circles. There was definitely the start of some cave generation. There was also a bedrock layer at the very bottom of the world down here, but you couldn't even interact with it, and you definitely could not break bedrock to get to the void beneath. But the caves themselves were definitely not anything special, just being these random circular shapes. In modern Minecraft, you could say caves have changed just a little bit, although technically before 1.18, caves were much smaller than they are today, and in some senses did resemble the old caves more. But what we have in modern Minecraft is really indiscernible from the old caves in the game. This is an insane night and day difference between both versions. Bedrock has always been used in Minecraft as a sort of border. It's used as a border in modern Minecraft for the bottom of the world, and also the top and bottom of the world in the nether. In this version, it was also used for the border at the bottom of the world, but because the world was so much smaller, there was also a border on the side of the world. This reminds me a lot of the bedrock border found in the nether in the old console edition days. Because the nether was quite small, of course, there was a strange world border around it, and it is strange to see this bedrock border in Minecraft. But how has this changed to modern Minecraft? The texture itself is actually surprisingly almost the exact same, but it does not generate flat. You can see we actually have a bunch of different bedrock around here, and we can sort of dig around all the bedrock, mining it out and getting ourselves a wide open area. Although you can break and interact with bedrock now and fall beneath it, even pick it up and place it different places. The notorious Plains biome biome. This is definitely the most popular and probably the most common biome inside of all of Minecraft in this version, and in, of course, the modern versions as well. As you can see here, there wasn't really a plains biome, but there was as close to it as we can get. A biome where there's very sparse trees that are shown around, fairly flat land, and also, of course, just standard grass, not really any sand that generates here. But overall, not incredibly shockingly different to the modern plains biome, with the idea of it being it's kind of plain and boring, and there's not a lot to do here, and that's why you want to build there, because you don't really have to clear out the space. Of course, in modern Minecraft, we still have the plains biome, but it actually has flatter flats and higher highs. Now, something crazy is we can have plains biomes that have crazy vertical shifts in height like this, and they even lead up to just more plains biomes. Now, this is a very interesting part of the game that has stayed the same, that is the music. Now, you think of Minecraft's music as being old, but maybe not this old. If we turn on the music here, we can see we're listening to C418, of course, and it is pretty loud, and of course the music basically just plays on a loop here, there just being a couple of the classic Minecraft alpha songs. But it's funny, the music of the game was so much more complicated than the actual game was at this point, and the music isn't that simple, the game was just incredibly simple. Now, of course, in modern Minecraft, the music will sort of just play on and off very randomly, and I'd say only about 25% of the time you'll hear the music, even if your music is turned on. Whereas in this version, very similar to the Legacy console editions of the game, music would play 24/7. You would never really have a break when the music was playing, it would just keep going, which I think is a pretty interesting feature. Next we have the low quality clouds. Doesn't seem that interesting, but it is actually pretty interesting if you think about it. The fact that clouds have stayed almost exactly the same across all these versions, although there are some differences. So if we look up, clouds don't move, and they're also completely flat. Now, something interesting is the clouds are very low. In fact, we can build up to be pretty close to them. The clouds are like a blindingly bright white, and they do not move, and they sort of have like this set texture to them. Let's compare these to modern Minecraft clouds. Now, there are two types of clouds in Minecraft. There's the standard clouds, but there's also the fast clouds. Fast clouds are very similar to those old Minecraft clouds. Now, certainly not the same, but we have this fast look to them. An interesting question I would have for Mojang is, why do we have the option between fast and fancy clouds? I really doubt that having 3D clouds is going to make the game any more laggy at all. That just doesn't make much sense to me as they're such a simple feature. What's that in front of us? The ocean and the beach. Both of these sort of biomes were in the game all the way back then. Now you can see it with the ocean. It is sort of a biome because we have it be full of water, and at the bottom here there is always gravel covering it, and of course we also have these very large sandy beaches. There are some similarities between this and the modern game, because we of course have the standard beaches. We also have more stony exposed beaches like this, which is kind of like in modern Minecraft generation, we have those three types as well. If we look out here at the beach, you can see that there's definitely a lot more sand here, and the sand is also not quite as flat, sort of just in the old version being flat with some dots in it, and even the shallowest of oceans are way deeper than they were in that version, with a much less blue water. But still, you can see the roots of the idea that Notch had back in Minecraft Classic, and how the idea has been perfected and updated and made even better with every version in Minecraft today. But anyway, that about wraps it up, because Minecraft Classic was very simple. There are 20 of the oldest features still in Minecraft today that were also in Minecraft Classic. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to press the like button. If I taught you something, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this, and turn on notifications to never miss an upload in the future. I will see you in the next video, and have a great day. Goodbye.